Hey, everybody. Welcome to Let's Debate. Tonight we have part three of the Kennedy assassination debate between Elijah Rivera and Neocon Net7. Um, this is going to be a focus on the ballistics. So we will have a 10-minute introduction per side, and then we will have up to an hour of open dialogue, and then a short closing statement from each, and then follow that with questions from the audience. And if you guys are ready, Elijah Rivera, you have the floor.
I got to correct you, Let's Farm Special Agent Elijah Rivera. All right.
My apologies.
Now we're going to talk about the ballistics part. This is a fun part because this took me one of the most intense times to research. But let's get into it. I'm going to be talking about the issue of Oswald and the bullets, especially the bullets found in the Texas School Book Depository. So I'm going to read off some of the stuff that I got here, and we'll go through one by one in the debate. Just the intro. Here it is. In the Warren Commission Report, Volume 17, Exhibit 510, page 221 of the report, we see 2 spent rounds and the live round. They were confirmed 3 shots, even in the Warren report. So where's the 3rd spent shell case? Now, they did have this problem, but we'll get to it. I have a clear picture I'll provide in a minute. This is the spent case. This was documented by J. Doyle Williams. He's the photographer. And this picture was by him, but this was achieved, or we know about this picture through Anne Marie Kunwalko. She's a researcher. And so Deputy Sheriff Luke Mooney first discovered the shells. Mooney testified before the Warren Commission, circled 3 spent holes in Warren Commission Exhibit 510. Noel Twyman, who's the author of Bloody Treason, looked further and made a startling discovery. One of the supposed spent holes was in fact a live round. The evidence he presents is pretty corroborative of evidence tampering, and that's on his book, page 110 to 116. It corroborates with an earlier finding by author Gary Shaw. Shaw had discovered a Dallas police evidence sheet that listed 2 spent holes and 1 live round. That's in page 112 of the book. Twyman also found a photo showing 2 spent holes and 1 live round in the possession of the Dallas cops. Page 111 of the book. To expand on the problem, we see 2 shells documented by the Dallas Police Department, taken from the Texas School Book Depository as detailed on Commission Exhibit number 2003, continued on pages 115 and 116. We'll get to that later. But a more important find is the actual evidence in the National Archives, specifically Exhibit 10 to 12B. It's an extremely important photograph, 2 6.5 empty bullet holes, and 1 live round of 6.5 millimeter ammunition from a rifle found on the 6th floor of Texas School Book Depository. Photos of 8 similar photos from the same set found by researcher Anne Marie in the National Archives. It brands as a lie that 3 bullets holes were found on the 6th floor of the School Book Depository by the Commission's own criteria. There was not 3 empty bullet holes, and there must have been a second gunman. For corroborating evidence, it's exhibits 10 to 12A, 1013A, 1013B, 1014, 1015, 1016, and it's the National Archives. A lot of it is going to be on pages 111 through 116 in Bloody Treason. We'll get over that. We found the changing of 2 holes recovered to 3 on the Dallas police reports. Now we're going to get into all that, but here's what's really interesting. I found at least 8 bullets found, but 10 bullets fired, 2 missing. So 3 bullets from the limousine, 1 missing is documented by U.S. Navy Bureau of Medicine and Surgery historians, Dr. James Young, physician who worked with White House physician Admiral George Berkeley. Then we're going to do the next bullet is documented by Alan Hardin Belmont, in charge of all investigative work and the assistant director of under J. Edgar Hoover. He sent an FBI memo to Clyde Tolson, who was the assistant director of the FBI. Associate director of the FBI under Hoover, about a bullet lodged behind Kennedy's ear. That's not reported by the Warren Commission or even the House Select. So 1 bullet was also found supposedly by Paul Landis. He's a Secret Service agent who went to cover Jackie. It was found in the Parkland Hospital senior engineer Dallas C. Tomlinson with O.P. Wright and given to James Rowley. 1 bullet kept by O.P. Wright. 1 extra bullet they added to the 6th floor, as documented by the Dallas Municipal Archives with the Dallas Police Department. So we'll go over all this. A 7.65 bullet found 10 days later in an envelope at Dealey Plaza from the FBI. The record is Assassinations Investigation Field Office, Files, Dallas, JFK Collection, no entry number, Box 173E, Stack 650L1, Row 70, Compartment 3, Shelf 7, and there's a reference of this bullet on a plane in a letter in the 8943 assassination record files by FBI Special Agent Robert M. Barrett. One more bullet found on a patch by a person who thinks is Gordon Novell. And it's also in Wayne and Edna Hartman's testimony and the FBI interviews. One bullet hit a turf near a manhole cover, explained by Patrolman J.W. Foster. One soft point bullet in the overpass that was found by Richard Lester and given to the House Select. One bullet that created the hole in the Queen Mary limousine windshield, and the missing bullet on the curb that ricocheted on the debris that hit James Tague, the debris piece. And then the bullet that hit Governor Connolly in the new ARB 8943 file. It could be the magic bullet, so I'm giving that one a pass. And then we have the magic bullet itself, CE 399. So that's 10 bullets shot, 2 missing, 8 found during and right after the assassination of JFK. And I hope to get to all the sources. There you go.
All right. Thank you for that, Agent Rivera. All right. We'll turn the mic over to Net7. Take it away.
Hi guys, happy to have this third debate here. Appreciate you, Elijah Rivera, for being respectful about our debate, even though we have differences on this topic. Unlike certain people, P-Bards. Anyway, so ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the issues of the Kennedy assassination and the ballistics, there isn't really much that can be learned beyond what we already know here, ladies and gentlemen. The fact of the matter is that 3 shots were fired. All right, Oswald started shooting at 12:30 p.m. The first shot missed both JFK and Governor Connolly. The second shot hit Kennedy, exited out his body, and hit Governor Connolly. And the third bullet, which was the killing shot, that hit Kennedy in the head, was the final bullet, and that was the one that killed him. Now, there was a fourth bullet inside the weapon itself that was not fired, and that was the rifle that was found inside the rifle when it was found later on by the Dallas Police Department. When it comes to the ballistics, there have been investigations, and the Warren Commission has already gone into great depth about this. And there have already been people who have criticized tried to say, oh, the so-called magic bullet theory, the idea that, oh, it just popped out of nowhere and it was pristine and it was perfect and there was no way that this could have been shot out of a weapon and it was just placed there. I'm going to present in our debate the evidence talking about this aspect of what has been used by a lot of conspiracy theorists to try and suggest essentially that there was a conspiracy of assassination and that Oswald was just some random fall guy and such like that. The fact of the matter is that the ballistics show once again that Oswald was the killer. There were 3 shots fired. The first shot missed because of hitting the trees, the branches as Kennedy's motorcade passed. The second shot succeeded in hitting its target. I hesitate to say it that way because it was the president who was killed, but just using a scientific basic term right there. And that one was, as from what I remember, essentially exited out of Kennedy and Governor Connolly. And then the third bullet was the one that hit him in the head that killed him. Now, the first bullet was found, obviously not in the vehicle because that bullet missed completely. And the second bullet and the third bullet, however, were found. One of them found in pieces, broken because of essentially hitting all the bone, soft tissue matter, the vehicle itself, etc. The third one, which is what people call the magic bullet, that one was later on found in the hospital, and I will explain in our debate why it was not found in the vehicle itself. But the ballistics don't show. The main argument is that the ballistics do not show conspiracy. The ballistics show that Lee Harvey Oswald and Lee Harvey Oswald alone murdered the president, because and he did so because he was a radical Marxist Leninist who wanted to become famous, who wanted to go down in history, and wanted to strike a blow for communism for his idol Castro. He had failed to become part of the Soviet communist revolution, and now he was trying to be part of the new Marxist Leninist experience of Cuba. And he had nothing to lose. His marriage was pretty much ending because of his constant domestic abuse and also his failure to really provide for his wife, Marina. And the bullets all, through investigations from Dallas police, the FBI, and others who have looked into it, all show that they all came from a Manikov Karkanov, the same rifle, same bullets. So thank you, and I look forward to expanding on some stuff that I found recently, because in preparation for this debate, I literally just found some of this stuff yesterday when I was at Barnes and Nobles. So happy to start.
Okay, so we're going to open this up to the back and forth between our two debaters. Guys, have at it. And if you want to share your screen, just let me know.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. I want to share something pretty cool. So I recently went to go have a FOIA request to NARA, National Archives. They're in College Park, Maryland. And I got my 2 documents out of the 3 that they found and I asked for. And here's the response I wanted to show. So I don't know if I can make this bigger or not. But this is the response. I hid their name because I don't know if like that's doxing or whatever. So I blank that out. I'm doing my own censorship here. I'm doing my own classification. So this is the response to your request for information about the JFK assassination records collection. You're specifically seeking access to 3 specific documents. We identified the file for FBI Field Office Dallas 8943 1A 122 as being in box 173, all that I said before. That's an official document that says there was a 7.65 round found 12 days after the assassination. That was Marie Ann Walco, same researcher. No one knows her that much, but she did a lot of good work on this. And so it was an FBI envelope, and it says 7.65, and then the continuation under it says thrown out, deemed as unuseful. So I'm thinking, what? It was found in, so that was also, it was found in Dealey Plaza as well. It's documented there. That's what she says on her files. That's in the Harold Weisberg files. So she says there's an FBI envelope that says 7.65 found Dealey Plaza 12 days after the assassination. And it just got thrown out. I don't know how anyone can even give the benefit of the doubt now to the FBI's investigation. So that's just one big problem. There's multiple problems. But I want to go towards the beginning. We're going to start first. I just wanted to show you how cool that was. So this is the official Warren Commission 17, page 251 on archives.org. And it shows here the 3 holes, right? So, sorry, 2 holes. B is a hole right here, and then C is a hole. A was actually a live round. This was the live round that was, who found that? We'll get into who found that one. I think it was Mooney as well who found it. Yeah, it was. Sorry, it was Mooney who found it. And so this one live round is A. It's stuck between like the crack and the seam here of the floor and the wall. And so we're going to get really into that one. I wanted to just really clarify that. So we have problems with that round as well, or those holes, because we have, how do I explain? So we have, there's an issue that the Warren Commission realized. It's like 2 versus 3 spent rounds. It was noticed as a discrepancy and questioned by Doherty, Dallas police detective. And for a time, one of the spent rounds was separated from the others in the chain of evidence. So that's where this whole problem is. Where's the third hole? We have a live round, right? One more time. We have the live round on the right here and the two holes on the left. Now, we're going to get into like where the third hole is and if I could find it in the National Archives. Spoiler alert, I can't find any documentary evidence except in the Warren Commission saying, oh, Fritz held onto one of the holes. And so his name is Captain William Fritz. He's a deputy or assistant deputy, maybe. I have to look at that again. But he's of the Dallas police. Okay, he was chief of the Homicide Bureau. One of another Warren Commission staffer's name is, I think, Day. He's confirming that Fritz had one of the three holes. And then we have to get to Fritz's testimony himself in the Warren Commission. So we're going to get into that. I want to have, do you have any objections to that, Net7? Any of the stuff I'm saying? Net, you there, bud?
I don't have any objections to what you're
So far?
saying
Okay.
so far. If you want to, like, because what I'm hearing though is, but I'm not sure what you're trying to suggest though for regards to conspiracy, because with
Yeah.
regards to the chain of command, remember that after the shooting had occurred and Dallas police had gone up to that floor where they felt that the shooting had happened based off eyewitness testimony and stuff like that, uh, and when they found the sniper's den, they specifically, the Dallas police supervisor said, nobody touch anything, leave things as they are, wait till the forensics, the people taking photography and looking for fingerprints get here. During that time, when they were looking around, they did find the rifle, but remember though that the supervisor on the scene took immediate charge and said, nobody move anything, don't touch anything, just wait till forensics get here.
Right. And so that's the specific moment where you're thinking everything looks fine or stuff, But J. Doyle Williams is the photographer, so he did photograph that one box did move, but that could have just been some police officer whose hip touched it or what. That doesn't count really as evidence tampering. I'm more specifically intrigued on William Fritz's testimony in the Warren Commission. Now, I think he's lying. The reason why I'm saying he's lying is because he lied before, I believe, about the wallet, but specifically about the holes. Why didn't he give this hole to the FBI? And why didn't well, maybe he did. We'll just give him the benefit of doubt. Maybe he did give it. But why did the FBI not give it to the National Archives? Why is it still only two holes and one live round when you have researchers go to the National Archives? Now, I could also show you the other email that I've sent to the National Archives about the third hole from William Fritz giving it to the FBI. They haven't responded to me to that one yet. So I'll try to show that maybe next debate or something. But I want to get into his testimony. So where is it? It's right here. Okay, this is Detective Doherty. Mr. Ball says, he's a Warren Commission staffer, I believe, or he's one of the lawyers. I forgot. I'll get into that another debate. He says, how did Captain Fritz give you some rifle shells to deliver to somebody? He said, now did Captain Fritz give you some rifle shells to deliver to somebody? Doherty replies, yes, sir. Ball continues, about what time of night or day was that? He says, I don't recall when it was, but from his office there, I took them up to the crime lab. Ball says, were there 3 spent 6.5 rifle shells? Is that right? Now Doherty says, yes, sir. Ball says, did you return any shells to Captain Fritz? Doherty also says, yes, sir. Ball says, all of them or one of them? Doherty replies, no. He told me to bring him one back. Ball says, you brought one back in an envelope? Doherty says, yes. That could be the same envelope given to, I think, Shanklin. Now, that's giving them the benefit of the doubt, but I won't because of that find that I have of Anne-Marie Walco of the 7.65 round that was in an envelope. Is that the one they're talking about? I can't get any clarification from NARA, from other FBI interviews, from other comments, what they said on, old WAFA television. I can't find any clarification. And that tells me that they either didn't care, or Fritz and Doherty, no, not, sorry, Fritz is lying. And we'll continue on. It says, it's very tiny here, but Mr. Bellin says, all right, you've mentioned these 3 holes. Do you put any initials on those at all? Any means of identification? Mr. Day says, at the time, they were placed in an envelope, and the envelope marked. The 3 holes were not marked at the time. Mr. Sims took possession of them. Bellin says, well, did you at any time put any mark on the shells? Day says, yes, sir. Then he replies, all right, let me first hand you what has been marked as Commission Exhibit, part of Commission Exhibit 543-544. Ask you to state if you know what that is. Day says, this is the envelope the shells were placed in. Bellin then says, how many shells were placed in that envelope? Day says 3. Bellin says, it says that here that it is written on here, 2 of the 3 spent holes under window 1, 6th floor. So there's a obviously contradiction right here. Day then says, yes, sir. Bellin says, did you put all 3 there? Day says, 3 were in there when they were turned over to Detective Sims at the time, Special Agent Detective Sims. The only writing on it was Loot J.C. Day, down here at the bottom. Mr. Bellin says, I see. Day replies, Dallas Police Department, and the date. Bellin says, in other words, you didn't put the writing in that says 2 of the 3 spent holes. Day says, not then. About 10 o'clock in the evening, this envelope came back to me with 2 holes in it. I say it came to me, it was in a group of, It was in a group of stuff. That's fantastic. Just throwing evidence in a pile of nonsense. A group of evidence we were getting ready to release to the FBI. I don't know who bought them back. Vince Drain, FBI, was present with the stuff. The first I noticed it. At the time, there was 2 holes inside. Now we have Fritz's, I believe this is his affidavit or his note that he wrote about this supposed shells. And it says here, and this is in the Warren Commission, before me, Mary Rattan, a notary public in and of said county, state of Texas, blah, 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 J.W. Fritz, Dallas Police Department, who after being by me duly sworn an oath depositions and says, I wish to supplement the evidence given to me on Wednesday, April 20th, 1964, before the President Commission on Assassination of President Kennedy. He says the spent rifle holes, 3 spent rifle holes were found under the window in the southeast corner of the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository building, Dallas, Texas, on the afternoon of November 22nd, 63. When the officer called me to this window, I asked them not to move the shells or touch them until Lieutenant Day of the Dallas Police Department could make pictures of the holes. Now, I don't even know why he'd say that if we already have a photographer up there. He could just got his camera, but whatever. Showing where they fell after being ejected from the rifle. After the pictures were made, Detective R.M. Sims of the Homicide Bureau, who was assisting in the search of building, brought the 3 empty holes to my office. These were delivered to me in my office at the police headquarters. I kept the holes in an envelope in my possession and later turned them over to C.N. Doherty of the Homicide Bureau and instructed him to take them to Lieutenant Day of the Identification Bureau. I told Detective Doherty that after these holes were checked for prints, to leave 2 of them to be delivered to the FBI and to bring one of them to my office to be used for comparison tests here in the office, as we were trying to find where the cartridges had been bought. When Detective Doherty returned from the Identification Bureau, he returned the 1 empty hole, which I kept in my possession. Several days later, I believe on the night of the 27th, Vince Drain of the FBI called me at my home about 1 o'clock in the morning and said that the commission wanted the other empty hole and a notebook that belonged to Oswald. I came to the office and delivered these things to the FBI. We have Mr. James Hostie's receipt for these items in our report. Now, I looked at the receipt, and Hostie doesn't, he's just documenting evidence. But I think Fritz is lying because he just has the receipt Hosty just has the receipt. He doesn't like. I didn't see any chain of evidence from this specific hole back to uh, the FBI or the National Archives. I cannot find that third hole at all. All we have, and I'm sorry, this is an unfortunate turn of events, but the burden of proof is on the FBI to provide a third hole. They can't just write it down in a note and not have the actual documentary evidence of it, because that's just lazy or incompetence. But and so here was the uh, police report. Two holes right here is documented as two. Then it gets changed to three, which is kind of cute. This is the information on an envelope containing of photographs of the written note, or yeah, the written note, which is by FBI agents showing that only two bullet holes were found on the sixth floor of the Texas School Book Depository building, not the three reported by the Warren Commission. An identical report was filed by Dallas Police in Exhibit 1012B, corroborating only two empty bullets that were found. This is the other report on what they're talking about. Document indicating 6.5 mm rifle and two spent holes found on the sixth floor of Texas School Book Depository building. The source is the Dallas Municipal Archives. And this is also Stephen Earhart's book, Searching for the Shadows, page 216. So, and then this is the Bloody Treason. This is, I think, page 112. And this talks about this better picture over here. I got a better picture than, unfortunately, this guy's book. Contents of evidence envelope, extremely important photograph, 260, so you know all that. Now, I have to ask you this, Net. If I cannot find the other source for the third hole in the FBI or NARA's archives, why am I to now just believe that they have the hole if I can't even find documentary evidence of it, rather than just receipts, which is not documentary evidence, just says I have this or we have it, but we don't have the actual photo of such holes?
Well, that may be a clerical issue of some kind, or it may be still in the Warren Commission hasn't been that has not been identified yet. Because I'm trying to follow along with what you have in the Warren Commission. It's interesting to say. I was hesitant to read from it, but I don't see it. But because some books will have you can't don't reproduce that stuff like that. But the thing is that I have the official summarized Warren Commission report here, and there's nothing on there in the front. So I'm assuming that I can do so, being that this was produced in 1964. Great quality, by the way. But when I'm reading over the Warren Commission report here with the knowledge of the rifle and stuff like that, and also the bullets, there were the Warren report specifically states that 3 cartridge cases were found in the book depository in the building itself, and they state that the cartridges were ejected to the right and showed considerable ricochet after their initial landing, bouncing anywhere between 18 inches to 15 feet. And the location of the cartridges was therefore consistent with the southeast window having been used by the assassin. Since if the assassin fired from that window, the ejected cartridge cases would have hit the pile of boxes at his back and ricocheted between the boxes and the wall until they came to rest to the west of the window. So that's something with regards to the cartridge cases that you showed in that photo right there, their location, stuff like that. I'd have to look more into the point that you brought up, but let me bring up a point to you, however. So, and this is something I literally just learned yesterday when I was perusing a book at Barnes and Noble about the Kennedy assassination itself. So, with regards to and the book that I would recommend that I'm pulling from is The Final Witness: A Kennedy Secret Service Agent Breaks His Silence. It's essentially one of the Secret Service agents who was tasked with protecting the president that day, who was involved with the events at Parkland Hospital and the assassination, stuff like that, recounting what occurred from his own perspective. So, with regards to um, the magic bullet, as it were, I mean, do you dispute? Do you believe that that bullet was simply planted there by or rogue elements or rogue agents of some kind, or do you believe that there is a valid reason for that bullet being in the location it was found in?
I think that bullet was planted, and the reasons I'll give is because Jack Valenti has a horrible alibi of where he was on the day of the assassination, and it's actually photographed that he was riding in the Secret Service car with David Morales. I can get into that later, but if you actually read the chain of custody for where this bullet was found, supposedly on the stretcher, to uh, I believe it was we'll get into that if you want right now. I actually have the whole list right there. But the chain
Yes.
of evidence, it
Yeah.
doesn't
So,
really make sense if you want to follow through with it. You ever read through that, like how it went through?
well, let me explain from Paul Landis's perspective, who was
Right.
one of the Secret Service agents involved with that.
Yeah, he
What
was the one
what
who said he found, I think.
Yeah, he was the one who said that he found that bullet.
Right.
And he was the one who held onto the bullet. So he found the bullet in the vehicle, uh, right after the events of the president and Governor Connolly being shot and them being at the hospital. And according to the book, and I can't read from this one because on here because this is a modern book, and there's like the whole disclaimer thing of
Yeah.
like don't reproduce this
No,
stuff.
I know.
But if I could, but to just to simply explain, he and summarize, he essentially states that the he picked up the bullet himself when he found it. It was a spur of the moment decision. It was a matter of simply what he felt was, gathering the evidence at that moment and unsure what to do at that moment, trying to deal with the fact that the president had literally just been shot, and how he just and Governor Connolly was seriously wounded,
Mhm.
and then describes later on about he decide with the what has become known as Exhibit 399,
Right.
which is that bullet. He then later on, in a spur of like not sure what to do when the stretchers were being moved and the president and Governor Connolly were stuff, he states that he believes that he put it on the president's gurney, and stuff like that.
Right.
But I believe personally that he put it on the wrong gurney. So he may have thought that he was putting it with the president's gurney, but he may have put it actually on another a gurney for the governor.
Yes.
But he also could have also what could have happened too is that the medical staff could have seen the bullet when if he had actually placed it on the government's gurney, the president's gurney, and put it away because it had nothing to do with the patient that they were trying to save, and then that's what happened with the bullet right there. So I believe that one of those two theories explains best where that bullet came from, because it shows again what I've argued before in regards to people bringing up the conspiracy stuff because of, oh well, why did this happen, or what about this and stuff like that. And again, I go back to the fact that there was not a set procedure on what
When
to
the
do
president
if,
dies. Yeah.
yeah, when the president is literally shot and killed.
Yeah.
A lot of things were happening spur of the moment, reactive, people
Chaos.
trying to do, yeah, exactly, people trying to do what they thought was best at the moment, maybe not always the right decision, but what they thought in the spur of the moment was, or people
Yeah.
reacting to events as they come. And so that's where we get the discovery of that bullet, Exhibit 399.
Yeah.
What is your theory on that? Because I would have to say I would dispute any arguments that it was just planted there as a part of a conspiracy.
No, I think it was not like one of the bullets. So 399, I don't think that's the same bullet that was found by Landis, because Landis, if I remember correctly, in an article by CBS or Mondo Wise, one of these news agencies, or maybe even in the book, but I remember him saying that they lifted the president, and then the bullet fell on the back. But this is supposed to be the same bullet that hit Connolly, right? So if it's going through the president's back and then through the neck, or sorry, through the chest, then through Connolly's back into his wrist, into his leg, and all that nonsense, I think is nonsense. But
well, so the single bullet theory is that it went into the president's back.
right.
So sorry, back on
Yeah,
his
I think
this side.
Shoulder, yeah.
Yeah, shoulder area, exited out his throat,
Oh,
and
okay.
and then hit the governor in his back or right shoulder area,
Okay.
which then exited out his right nipple area.
Right, and then the wrist to the leg. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so
because his hand was in this area at that when it happened.
Now we'll get into like why I think that bullet was just like shot through cotton or gelatin, and because if I remember, that bullet is supposed to be in Connolly, but Landis said when they lifted the president into the gurney, the bullet fell or was in the seat or fell into the back of the seat. That's a different bullet. So I think there was a mix up there. Someone screwed up real bad, but there's an article by James Young, one of the medical professionals at the time, and it goes into O.P. Wright, who found the supposed bullet 399 on one of the gurneys. And so we're going to, if you want, that's a great article. I think we should start on that one because that really gets into like, did Landis, give it to, put on this gurney or did he put on a different gurney? It really gets into like what we think happened at the time. I know it's not too documented, unfortunately, but we're just going off of Landis's testimony, O.P. Wright's, James Young. Like, it's a pain, but when we get through it, it's going to make a lot more sense. So let me see if I can get to that right here. Let's go to, yes, here it is. To recap, Dr. James Young was a physician who worked with the White House physician Admiral George Berkeley during the Kennedy administration. And during the autopsy, he'd been given the bullet in an envelope by White House Medical Corpsman Chief Petty Officer Thomas Mills after his return from the White House garage to retrieve skull fragments from the rear of the limousine. So hold on a minute. He was going to retrieve skull fragments from the rear of the limousine. This bullet is now given to the Navy chief autopsy guy. I don't understand. Now it sounds like there's 3 bullets. It probably is not. It's just 2. But one that fell out, he put it on probably the gurney. And then this guy might have gotten it from some other Secret Service member who gained it from O.P. Wright. It's very hard to track this stuff when you dig through it or FOIA request it. They don't give you like an answer. They have to say, oh, we cannot find this document, but here's 100 references for you to read. And I'm like, I don't have time to go through 100. You guys can't find it. But anyways, I do it anyways. I have to do the work for them. I'm not too shocked. Like that's just government. It's not too good at its job. But we're going to go here, the aarclibrary.org. And we're going to go through the supposed steps that this Navy autopsy man got, James Young. And so aarclibrary.org. A White House physician autopsy witness questions President Ford about a missing bullet. December 2001, January 2002, and January 2002, during an interview with U.S. Navy Bureau of Medicine and surgery historians, Dr. James Young, a physician who worked with the White House physician Admiral George Berkeley during the Kennedy administration, related that during the autopsy, he was given a bullet in an envelope by a White House medical corpsman. That's Thomas Mills. After his return from the White House to get the skull fragments from the rear of the limousine. Young described this bullet as jacketed, straight, but with a bent tip and visually close to CE-399. So that might be the bullet, right? And he estimated to be 0.5 centimeter. Dr. Young voiced his concerns to the interviewers that he had never seen any reference to this Warren Commission investigation. The last thing he remembers is that he gave the envelope containing the bullet with the bent tip to Dr. Humes. That's Dr. Humes and Dr. Boswell that will do the autopsy at the Naval Medical Facility. He's a pathologist, though, so it's not really too required for the job, but they do it anyways. And the bullet was never seen or documented after that. So this is from the official AARC library, Assassination Archives, that they don't know where this bullet is, but they're saying it might be 399. So as we continue on, in interviews, Dr. Young said that he initially contacted White House Corpsman Petty Officer Mills by telephone, and Mills confirmed his recollection. Navy historians called Mills in an effort to verify his claims. Mills told the historians, Jan Herman, one of them, that he remembered the event, but when pressed for details, Mills said he didn't want to talk about it, even after the historians notified him that they represent the U.S. Navy Bureau of Medical and Surgery, Office of Medical History. Significantly, Mills did not repudiate Dr. Young's claims, something that might well have been expected if Young had fabricated the episode and falsely implicated Mills in the process. Dr. Robertson then contacted Navy interviewer Jan Herman, who informed him that the interview with Mills had not been taped, which is just ridiculous, but that Mills' tone of voice changed perceptibly when pressed for details of the episode. Herman vividly remembered the Young interview because after having the tapes transcribed, Dr. Young then adamantly refused to sign the release form for the Navy to use them in the hundreds of oral history interviews that Herman had conducted. Dr. Young was the only one who had refused to sign such a release. His stated reason was that there were revelations contained within the interviews that he did not want to be made public. All right, well, I want to see these interviews, so maybe I'll look for those another time. But I'm just strictly focusing on the bullets, and it's going to take forever. Like, there's going to probably be another episode on ballistics because the gun that you're talking about, there's a lot of stuff with multiple guns, and I have photograph evidence of multiple guns, so that's going to be pretty cool. But anyways, back to the problem here with Dr. Young's not wanting to give a recollection of the revelations that are made and not following maybe the reports that he read. So the sentiment was included in his earlier letter to President Ford. Here's an additional FOIA request by Dr. Robertson for the actual tapes of the interviews. It was non-responsive as the tapes could not be found. I know. Dr. Young died in 2008 due to complications following a stroke. So we got George Berkeley here. The missing physician is the next article here, the next part of the article. Warren Commission was faced with
before we go to the physician, can I discuss the bullet really quickly that we're going over? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read again from the Warren Commission report right here with regards to, because you mentioned a discrepancy in like the shape or the curvature or something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yes. Yeah, we're gonna get into that, but yeah.
Yeah. So going into here, right here, something a board for the Warren Commission looked at, because they did look into this and stuff like that. This is their explanation, and it's on page 553 of the report itself. Okay. A bullet or cartridge case cannot always be identified with the weapon in which it was fired. In some cases, the bullet or cartridge case is too mutilated. In other cases, the weapon's microscopic characteristics have changed between the time the suspect item was fired and the time the test was fired. Microscopic characteristics change drastically in a short period of time due to wear, or over a longer period of time due to wear, corrosion, cleaning. Still, again, the weapon may mark bullets inconsistently, for example, because the bullets are smaller than the barrel and travel through it erratically. And on page 557 of the Warren Commission, which specifically goes into the rifle bullets, it stated that the stretcher bullet weighed 158.6 grains, or several grains less than the average Western cartridge, etc., etc. It was slightly flattened, but otherwise unmutilated. The two bullet fragments weighed 44.6 and 21 grains, respectively. The heavier fragment was a portion of a bullet's nose area, as shown by its rounded contour and the characteristics, the markings that it bore. Skipping a little bit, it said, however, each had sufficient unmutilated area to provide the basis of an identification. Based on a comparison with test bullets filed from the C2766 rifle, the stretcher bullet and both bullet fragments were identified as having been fired from the C2766 rifle. So, doesn't that sort of contradict the idea that people have floated around with regards to, oh, the bullets and the fragments, were not consistent with the weapon or with consistent with the rifle, particularly because, and this source I'm pulling from is now case closed. Obviously, I can't read from it because it's more modern. It's not that report, which is public information. But this one's But again, just summarizing, the National Archives and Failure Analysis Association did do a test on Exhibit 399, which we talked about, which was that bullet, that is believed to have gone through the president and through Governor Connolly.
Yeah.
That when they did, there was when the Failure Analysis Associates tried to do essentially a reconstruction, they found that the bullet fired in such a manner does prove that the single bullet theory actually unlike what the conspiracy theorists say, has strong credence to it, that it can pull off some injuries in the manner that it did, going through the president and then going through Governor Connolly. But I'm interested though in your next point, obviously. But if you can answer that briefly.
So, if you remember the report, do you remember the three doctors that went through the ballistics test? It was the U.S. Army who supervised the test. Do you remember who their names were?
I don't have their names on hand, no.
That's fine. I'm going to get through it. But I just want, real quick, what volume of the Warren Commission report? Because I have all 26 volumes here.
So this is so this one right here is from 1964 right here.
Okay.
So this might be one of the this is probably one of the earlier summarized versions.
Right.
Yeah. So it's one of the I think it's one of the earlier summarized versions.
Gotcha.
Because this is again like around 800 something over pages. But again, if you listen to the Warren Commission, because they have it on Audible, like you can listen to the whole thing that goes on that you can listen to that for like 20 something hours.
Right. It's pretty slow, but there's like 26 volumes. Some of the stuff they actually revised. So I don't know if what you're looking at is which volume it is, and they might have like gotten rid of certain things or certain pathways of evidence. But the ballistics test that the Army had supervised for the Warren Commission here was with Dr. Joseph Dulce, who was chief consultant of ballistics at the U.S. Army. He supervised the test for the Warren Commission. His colleagues were Dr. Alfred Oliver and Dr. Arthur Ziman. Were tasked with trying to like recreate the magic bullet. Right. This is the report the Warren Commission went off of, and so this is the ironic part. Dr. Joseph Dulce wasn't called to testify to the Warren Commission because he actually was extremely against the fact that this bullet was recreated in any possible way, going through cadavers, human bone, especially John Connolly. He was a big guy. He was like 6'4". He's got some dense bones. Have you ever seen a picture of him? You're going to expect heavy damage. And so they go through, there's a cool YouTube video on it. If I could share it with you, or we could probably go through it here if you want. It's your choice. Or we can go through the actual report, the U.S. Army report. It's just very long. It's on page 42, if I remember.
Well, it's like, well, if you look at the book, Case Closed, Lee Harvey Oswald and the Assassination of JFK by Gerald Posner, who's...
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, and he's not like in depth as Vincent Bugliosi is with his book Reclaiming History, but I really wish I could show.
He might reference him actually, because sometimes they do that. They'll reference the previous author.
Yeah, he has a really good example of here in the book of the single bullet theory. I wish I could show it, but it's because again, again, there were tests done in as far as the early 90s, at least from what I know of, and maybe more have been done, showing that the single bullet theory is not simply a hearsay or like, oh, that's a government excuse, but it actually is possible under the circumstances because it has been replicated. I don't say do this. Let's not do this in the modern day. But but going through the Warren report, they actually, well, in some cases they used they tested shooting animals.
They
So
had
to
goat.
yeah, so I don't recommend that for today because that's going to
Yeah,
be a.
that's
But
not. Yeah, that's a issue of you're not getting away with that. Let's just say that.
yeah,
There's not a chance. But yeah, that was the this was the report where they shot through I think a goat chest or a leg or something like that to kind of represent Connolly's gigantic bones. And so the head, Dr. Joseph Dulce, was totally against it. But his colleagues who disagreed with him, who are lower doctors, they went to testify to the Warren Commission and they took his testimony. But another interesting thing about the Warren Commission. So Arlen Specter was the guy who presented this single bullet theory, or also called the magic bullet theory. When he presented it to James Warren, yes, James Warren. Judge Earl Warren. That's his name.
yeah.
And he was like silent for like 10 seconds because he was like, "This is BS." Like I forgot what article it is, but he like explained it, and then there was like 10 seconds of silence from the room. And then everyone did a vote. And so unfortunately two other people voted like this is not the case. This is not what happened. But then like 4 other people voted like it did happen, this single bullet. So then that's what they went off of. That's what they tried to focus the investigation on, which is why you have Joseph Dulce, who they asked to try and recreate C399. And so I think it's important if you watch the YouTube video of his explanation, or you could read the report itself, because it really goes through like we testified it through cotton like 500 times. We testified it through gelatin 500 times. Then we testified it through goat, a goat arm or goat bone or femur or whatever. And it's like every single test totally failed. And the only ones that looked slightly similar was through a gelatin and through cotton. It was 2 bullets that they found. And so I'm thinking, yeah, that kind of shuts the case down. If they retested it, it was when was this? 19. Let's go look at the date when they did this. Unclassified, blah, blah, blah. I hate going, some of the things with Kennedy research, it's just, they make it hard for you to.
Well, it's not that they make it hard. It's that the FBI report itself on the matter literally is 500,000 pages long.
I know. It's not fun. I remember going through it. Let me see.
Yeah.
Appendix A. Where's this figure A17 bullet holes? Okay, hold on a minute. I'm trying to get the date of this test. When did they do this? If you want to share the screen, I'm on it right here. Larry or Let's. This is the report. Chemical Research Development Lab, Edgewood Arsenal, blah, blah, blah. 21010. All right, here it is, 73. This is the 1973 one. So, sorry, this was not the Warren Commission. No, sorry, it was actually. No, this was one of the Warren Commission's retesting. Because earlier they're just like, who cares? Let's just go with Arlen Specter. Now they did the retest here. And so we let's go back to close that out. This is the CE399. And here is the 6.5 Eller Carcano bullet flattened by glancing blow on rib. So this was a blow on the rib. Looks pretty probable to 399. B says undeformed bullet recovered from gelatin tissue model. So yeah, it's almost like this is a perfectly round and this one's flattened, right? So wait a minute. But C399, if you remember what it looks like, this is in the NIST archives, C399. This is, that's not it. Where is it? I could probably just type it in. C399 here, do it real quick. Oops. All right, and this is what the bullet looks like. Right? Not really flattened, more round. But when we go to the report, they test fired it through a bone, it's flat. Gelatin, it's round, right? Round, gelatin. This is the real bullet, 399 National Archives. And this is the gelatin one. But this one's flat. Let's see if there's a better picture if I remember correctly. Right here. This is figure A23, hold left and exit velocity screen. by 6.5 Mannlicher Carcano bullet, tumbling after it perforated target. So it tumbled, and it looks like this, right? Does that look like that? Not a chance. Not a chance. Go here. This was the permanent cavities left in the gelatin tissue model by bullets. A is 6.5 millimeter, this one. B is 762 millimeter, M80 ball at 55 yard. I don't know why they did that, but this is the result. Cal 257 Winchester Roberts soft nose hunting bullet. Here it is. So they go through the whole report. I'm trying to see here it is. Mannlicher range 60, striking velocity 1.829 feet per second. I don't. That's how they measured it back in the day. Assault defense, not really too important, but they keep retesting it in the notes, if I remember. Here it is. Copies, mail and file record, distribution list, Chief Bureau of Medicine Surgery. So they did a ton of recreations, right? Look at that. Oh my gosh. And they couldn't really get a good C39 bullet. And I kind of just questioned that. Like, what do you think about that? Like, how could they keep retesting it? It took it like 1,000 more tries, and it kept failing.
Well, I don't think it's kept failing.
But yeah.
I don't think it's kept failing because there have been numerous tests to replicate.
Yeah, this in the 90s. I remember.
Going into the 90s, and they found that yes, the bullets can do that. Now, because remember, the first bullet missed. The second bullet hit both the president and Governor Connolly, and the third bullet hit purely the president in his skull. And 399 is considered the bullet that hit both the president and Governor Connolly, going mostly through soft tissue. The third bullet is the one, if I'm remembering correctly, that was broken, that was left in pieces, broken apart, because it hit not really soft tissue matter. It hit skull, like bone and skull and such like that, blowing out the brain matter from the president and breaking apart eventually. I don't think there's been a lot of people that have repeated again and again that that has never been replicated, but firearms experts from the government try to pull the same things off, and more often than not they show very similar results, not just with the one I just mentioned, but remember the House selection, like what was it,
the House Select Committee assassinations?
Yes, that's the one. Okay, yeah. So they tried similar tests to themselves. They did not come to the same exact results that we, but but consistently when people, particularly when have tried to replicate those results, they don't come too far off. And the problem is that people always try to stick to the minutest differences and say that, oh, well, because it's not exactly the same, therefore, oh, this must prove that couldn't have happened the way it has. But no, in any circumstance and in any given experiment, even, we can never fully put the same exact circumstances, as much as we try. We try our best to do so. We can only come to the closest conclusion possible. And more often than not, the results, like what I mentioned from the Failure Analysis Associates and such from the National Archives and Failure Analysis Association, run the tests again and find similarities. Now, and also now this is and I'm going to source it, even though this is not a really considered a source in a sense, because yes, it was the people did swear to tell the truth, but this was a mock trial, not really a official hearing with real stuff like that. So the ballistics experts who did testify in that mock trial with Lee Harvey Oswald and such like that, it's not really a source in the sense, because again, it was not something official, even though people swore to it. It was practical thing. But the ballistic experts who testified in that that example to the evidence that they had been involved in particular being involved in either the Warren Commission or in the House Select Committee on, what is it again? Assassination.
House Committee assassinations.
There we go. It
Easier.
doesn't roll off the tongue, right? I just
That's
can't.
why we abbreviate it HSCA. So easy.
Yeah, HSCA. Yeah, so with the HSCA running the test over again, they did find that the Maniklik Arkanov rifle could pull off that stuff as the Warren Commission has argued, and also that the ballistics themselves, the fragmentation of the bullets after exiting both President Governor Connolly and the fragmentation of the bullet that exited the president's brain and skull, more often than not came to the very similar results. Now, obviously, there are differences because, again, when, for example, people in certain circumstances tested at a range rather than with the exact same circumstances of being in an elevated position, firing down on a target and such like that.
Distance and the whole thing. Yeah, I get it.
And also too, but again, I don't see the issue with the ballistics either, because again, also the thing about ballistics is that no one has been able to prove with the bullet fragments, and especially that they're anything but genuine, because people argue about whether or not they, actually would have resulted in the final result, particularly the 399, the magic bullet or the single bullet. People argue about that the most because they're like, well, how could that possibly have the bullet that hit the president, his impact, it broke that bullet apart into pieces. How could possibly that one have gone through and looked not clean per se, but not as damaged as the other one, which fragmented everywhere? The reason being is because, again, that bullet was going through mostly soft tissue matter, not as the other bullet did, which literally hit directly into the skull in the back and then through the front. And the ballistics also. Well, I'll bring this up later. I don't want to go on. I've gone on a little bit, but you bring your point. I'm gonna make my next point after you respond.
I don't see it as a genuine attempt to really recreate or even find the documents or the sources, even from the government's, the Department of Justice or the Warren Commission's angle. And I see that as when you have issues with a fourth and fifth bullet that are documented from our own government saying it was there, which means there was a fourth or fifth shot or two shots at the same time consecutive, that at once to make it look like a third or fourth shot. That's the issue I have. Like, this is going to be the next source I'm going to provide to you. This is the official government source that I'll provide that says there's a bullet lodged behind his ear, Kennedy's ear. So wait a minute, there's supposed to be 3 bullets, 3 shots. So we actually have another bullet. This is I don't know how anybody can just say, oh, there wasn't more than one shooter if we have that evidence coming from our own government. But then there's no reinvestigation. There's no follow-up. There's no notes, right? There's no notes taken down for some of the special agents. You could read some of those, right? I was trying to find Paul Hoke's notes. And then James Hosty talks with Paul Hoke's back and forth. The email, but they mail each other, different notes and all that. Serial 1132 is the one I'm trying to find at the moment. And I cannot understand why certain evidence that doesn't fit that Warren Commission authority coming from J. Edgar Hoover saying, just find Oswald and none of the other co-Confederates. Remember that memo? That seems like a military order coming down. That doesn't seem like the Justice Department or the Warren Commission is putting on their suits and they're investigating and doing a good job and they're patriots doing their duty. I don't see that at all. So here's the next piece of evidence that I'm going to provide. A bullet found by Alan Harnan Belmont. His job is he's in charge of all investigative work and the assistant director under J. Edgar Hoover. He sent this FBI memo to Clyde Tolson. Remember? So he's the associate under Hoover. Now, you can't BS Tolson, right? Because you're getting to the second highest man in the FBI. You got to tell him what's there. And there's got to be punishment if it's wrong. There was no punishment. If you look at Alan Belmont's record, he did a great job supposedly with the JFK investigation. So here's what I find just interesting. No one talks about this amazing primary source document. If you want to share, Larry, here's the doc. All right. Memorandum, Mr. Tolson, date November 22nd, 1963, from Alan Belmont. Subject, assassination of President John F. Kennedy, November 22nd, 1963. I talked to Special Agent Shanklin in Dallas. He said arrangements have been made with Carswell Air Force Base to fly one of our agents to Washington with the rifle, the Carcano rifle, that was recovered by the police. Or maybe it's not even might be the Carcano rifle. Because we're going to get into rifles maybe in another debate. But it was recovered by the police together with the fragments of the bullets taken from Governor Connolly and the cartridge cases. I told Special Agent Shanklin that Secret Service had one of the bullets that struck President Kennedy, and the other one is lodged behind the president's ear, right there, right here, lodged behind the president's ear. First paragraph. What? How can people just say there's no fourth shot? That's what gets me a little frustrated. And people they don't really dig for the evidence on the conspiracy side. That's what I feel like the Warren Commission didn't do. They just got the memo from Hoover saying, "Oh, go investigate only Oswald and no possible co-conspirators." And that's what they took the order and said, "All right, if there's other evidence, discard it." Just like that FBI envelope that said 765 round that was found 12 days after the assassination. And remember, it was blocked off. I remember for about was it a week? I forgot the deal. It was blocked off for a week and plus, if I remember. And so they find this bullet. The FBI finds it, and so it's not reported. So we got 5 bullets. All I need is 1 bullet to kind of break the Warren Commission's findings. But if I got 10 bullets, 9 bullets that I could piece together with all the work that I've gone through, I'm talking about months of reading different sources, archives, and all that. It's just a pain in the ass. Sorry, excuse my French, pain in the butt. And so that's a great memo here. I could send this to you or to the group chat, or maybe I'll send it to the afterwards in the video when it's posted. But anyways,
so this is the alleged smoking gun. The idea that there was multiple bullets and stuff like that. But again, the House Select Committee on Assassinations looked at the X-rays, okay, and they looked at the Kennedy photographs, and those were, held by the CIA, okay, and other agencies, okay, and all independent, okay, and these people who looked into this, okay, every medical panel, with regards to this, okay, both the ones in, with regards to the committee in the House Select Committee on Assassinations, and others that have happened around, like either before or prior to that, have all shown that the bullets, again, that there were only 3 bullets, and the shots, the 2 shots that hit him, okay, the particular from the X-rays and the photographs, came from the back. They didn't come from the front. Now, one of the things about people who argue conspiracy for an assassination, that, the bullets came from other directions. One of the arguments I wanted to bring up too about ballistics is the bullet that one of the bullets which missed, and the first one, remember, which hit some branches and apparently then hit, I believe, if I believe correctly, missed. I'm not sure if this one was the one that hit the window of the vehicle. I'm trying to remember which one, but I know that there was indentation on the vehicle. It was
on the seam on the top next to the window, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And people then tried to suggest that because of the way the damage of the window was, that it suggested a shot from the front. But experts taking into account the design of the windows and how the effects of what a bullet was supposed to do, the reason that the damage was the way it was is because it had been hit from the inside, not from the front. And the fact of the matter is that yes, Lee Harvey Oswald had more than the 3 bullets that he had in his cartridge. He had a total of 4. He
Yeah.
shot 3. He may have planned to have used a 4th, but it seems that he did not, either based off of simply panic or reflex, or because he had hit his target and then had decided to get away from the scene. The problem with the theory with regards to the idea that there were multiple shooters, one is that there's no other shooters that were found. The Dallas police and not the
Well,
Secret Service, because the
yeah.
Secret Service were there to protect the president. They did not engage in any investigative activities unless it was involved with protecting their asset, immediately, which was the president and the vice president. No other shooter has been found, and the ballist has been found. No other bullets have been found, because you mentioned that report. Well, the bullet with the ear, but all pictures and fragments, X-rays of the president that we have don't show that. And now people argue, well, why didn't the X-rays get released immediately, and the photos and such like that? Well, the reason being was because it goes back against the argument with regards to the president's brain, for example. The Kennedy family was very fearful that there would be people that would
Yeah.
essentially try to make a buck off, or use for one form or another photos or images of Kennedy's
And then put
death.
fake evidence or something, like tamper with it.
Well, I wouldn't say tamper with it. I would just say use it as a sort of like use it in a way that was not,
Trophy. Like, oh,
yeah,
look.
a trophy, yes, and also in a way to maybe used in a way that would be demeaning to uh, their recently deceased family member.
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. I remember reading
Which
upon
is
that. Yeah,
this
they
is what
were
this is why they withheld. This is why the X-rays were withheld for so long, and in conjunction with the photos, because the photos really showed the severest of damage that Kennedy had suffered, because again he had a massive hole through his head.
Yeah.
And the problem with the because this goes to ballistics again, if there were multiple shooters trying to assassinate the president under some sort of conspiracy, mob, CIA, KGB, or whoever, there would have the missing the fact that we have no other bullets found from any other weapon or similar weapons is a big hole in that theory, particularly because remember, at the scene, remind you, because you mentioned, people were saying that, the president was shot through the ear as well, and that indicates a 4th bullet or something like that.
fucking.
Remember too, people didn't even know Governor Connolly was shot when they took the president and Governor Connolly to the emergency room. Remember, the secret service agents didn't even know that Governor Connolly had yet been hit until they saw him bleeding, and stuff like that, and his wife was freaking out, like, save my husband and such like that. But I would say I dispute that, because the X-rays in particular are the most damning evidence, indicating that only 2 bullets hit the president, not 3 or 4.
Well, again, we don't have access, unfortunately, to these X-rays, and I'd have to go ask the Kennedy family themselves, and they'd probably say no. But I'd have to ask them for the X-rays, and maybe I'll do it myself, view them, or I'll give it to an expert. But there actually was in the new documentary, the new Oliver Stone JFK one, or no, actually, it was a different documentary. This was ABC documentary on Kennedy assassination, and so it goes through one of the doctors asked for a access to the original autopsy reports and his pictures, of Kennedy, his brain and all the damage. But they go through it, and he says, well, yeah, there was actually some some scarring here, and there was, so it's like they put his head back together in the back. Now that fits the Parkland doctors, but I don't want to get too much into the medical path, or the autopsy photos and all this, because that's going to be a distraction. I'm just focusing on ballistics. Now, if both of our arguments fall with on, I'm just going to rely on the House Select report, I'm going to rely on the FBI report, the Warren Commission report, this and this and that, and we have contradictions here, and we don't have photo evidence of the third hole, right? Even though it's accepted that there was 3 holes, there's still no photo evidence of the third hole. But we have documented evidence of multiple bullets and even photograph evidence of it. So I see that as more of a justified primary source than just the secondary or tertiary source of just the government saying, or just the departments saying, well, this is what we found in our report. Because that's not like how
well,
you
I wouldn't say it's just tertiary. I would say that, again, government reports are verifiable and they're sourceful because they do have evidence. They do have investigative stuff behind it. But my point that I wanted to add is that the lack of other bullets being found at the scene, that would indicate either multiple assassins using the same weapon or multiple assassins using different weapons, does hurt your theory.
Well, you said there's a lack of, and I don't have a lack of. I actually have the FOIA saying that there was an FBI 7.65 round found days after the assassination. That's all I really need, just to pretty much get rid of the Warren Commission report and some of the House Select report. But even in the House Select report itself, we have the soft point bullet that was fired and found by Lester. He gave that to the FBI in 73, if I remember correctly. We'll read it right now if you want. But that's a soft point. Now, all of Oswald's bullets that you see at NIST, they're all full metal jacket. So, and then you read through like the police reports in Dealey Plaza. Was there any shootings in Dealey Plaza after the assassination with a soft point 6.5 bullet and rifle? There's no record of that because Dealey Plaza is not known to be a hub of crime. It was a hub of some assets of organized crime, but it wasn't a hub of violent crime at the time, especially for the span of like 20 years. And so there's 2 bullets, all I need. It's the 7.65 round, and I have the soft point round. That's all I need. And I'm good to pretty much just blow this out of the water. But we'll read that real quick. It's a very quick read. Let's go to soft point or Lester. Here it is. History Matters. House Selects Committee Assassinations, Volume 7. You can share again, Larry. This is going to be quick.
So sorry, looks like someone asked a question and I was just trying to answer it. So it says right here, is there any way to track down the purchaser of the bullets? Well, the person who would...
The person who bought the gun.
Yeah, the person would have been, for my argument, Lee Harvey Oswald. But going back to the report here with what it says right here, it says that on page 555, it says, when the rifle was found in a Texas school book depository building, it contained a clip which bore the letters SMI, the manufacturer's markings, and the number 952, possibly a part or the manufacturer's code number. The rifle probably was sold without a clip. However, the clip is commonly available. So it is possible. So it's more than likely that when the rifle was purchased, it was purchased without the clip and ammunition, and that was purchased at a later date somewhere else. That would be what the Warren report is essentially arguing here to answer that question.
That is possible, and we'll get to the rifle in probably another debate. But again, I want to stick to just the ballistics right now because the rifle's a fun one. That's a fun thing to try to research or debunk, really. Here, I'm going to go through this real quick. This is only 2 paragraphs. Bottom of 350.
Oh yeah, let's just start to wrap it up though, because we've already got to our hour.
Yeah, this is it. I just needed those. We're going to wrap this up with 2 more sources. That's it. So here it is. Bottom, page 350. I don't know why it says that, but it's 357 of the House Select. 2 additional items unavailable to the Warren Commission were considered by the committee as possible relevant to its inquiry. First was a bullet fragment found in 74 near the Triple Overpass in Dealey Plaza by Richard Lester. Lester turned it over to the FBI on December 1st, 76, requesting that an analysis be conducted to determine if it might be connected to the assassination. The FBI laboratory obtained the National Archives the bullets test fired in the Mannlicher Carcano rifle in 63, and on July 28, 1977, examined the bullet fragment and compared it to the Mannlicher Carcano test fired bullets. The laboratory determined that both the Lester bullet and the test fired bullets were 6.5 millimeter. But the Lester bullet was found to be a jacketed soft point or a jacketed hollow point sporting bullet, whereas the Mannlicher Carcano bullet was to be a full metal jacketed military type. Although the rifling impressions were similar, 4 lands and grooves right twist, the widths of the land and groove impressions were found to vary by about 0.01 inch. The individual identifying characteristics was found to be different. Thus, the laboratory concluded that there was no indication the Lester bullet had been fired from the Mannlicher Carcano rifle. The laboratory returned the test-fired bullets to the archives, and the fragment of Lester at the completion of its examination. Select committee obtained a bullet from Lester on November 10, 77. There it is. So we got another bullet officially documented by our government about a soft point bullet used possibly, definitely during the assassination. And then one more source I'll provide is this Mary Ann Coons-Walco. This is the researcher who found that FBI, where is it? Here it is, 8943-1A122. So she sent this to Harold Weisberg. The contents of that is the 765 letter. And that was in Weisberg's archives here. I'm going to read it real quick. Where is it? Where is it? It should be here somewhere at the bottom. Oh, I have to find that one. That's going to be a tough one. This is so small on my screen. Here's the next page. Ah, here it is. So you can't see it, but it's high. I'm highlighting it. Dealey Plaza, 12/02/63. The shell is not within the envelope. It states on the envelope determined to, okay, no, let me go back further. I'm reading horribly. The date they received their copy was 11/20/63. We are currently not allowed to copy this film or either photos released. Till the preservation, use it first. Another envelope with this release states a shell 765 found in Dealey Plaza, 12/02/63. The shell was not within the envelope. It states on the envelope determined of no value and destroyed. And this is, she's continuing with her commentary, right? No value to the official theory. Conclusion, still another find, 7-page ledger mark, secrets showing 2, blah, blah, blah. That's there it is. That's the 765 bullet. So I got the 765 bullet and the soft point bullet found by Lester. And that's all I need. I could go through more, but I feel like we'd have to have another debate on the ballistics. We'd have to definitely have a part 2 because there's just so much. So that I haven't covered. That's my conclusion there.
Well, I'll have to go over some of that stuff you mentioned later, since that's a lot over. But we've hit. I don't want to rush. I mean, I want to go. I'll go over that later, since that was a lot.
Yeah.
But we've had our hour of open debate, so I'll go to the next step.
Yeah, I don't want to keep.
Maybe put that.
I could keep it forever. But
maybe put that in we'll put that in a part 4.
Yeah, we'll do ballistics part 2 or part 4.
Well, stay tuned for in this ongoing series of Kennedy debates from Neocon Net7 and Elijah Rivera. So, all right, I'd like to thank both of our debaters for this entertaining and informative debate tonight. If you would like to make a closing statement, since Elijah Rivera opened, we will let Net7 go first.
So, with regards to ballistics, the case is shot, in my opinion. We're talking about the fact that, one, the bullets are what they are and were found and were at the scene. They were not tampered with in any way that would have show any form of conspiracy, and by any factor, whether it's rogue elements in the CIA, the FBI, mob hit, KGB, etc., all the different theories that come out. What people, again, the fact of the matter is that the X-rays show the two bullets hit Kennedy. So the fact of the matter is that the evidence from modern day replications of those of testing of the shots show that the bullets, the single bullet theory, which is the one that hit the president and exited out of him, and then hit Governor Colley, exited out of him, showed that there was no bullet planted in the hospital, which has been used by conspiracy theorists to suggest conspiracy. Replicating that test has shown that the results do come out that way. Also, again, while there are many people who have argued that there were multiple shooters, we only have 3 bullets that we have found. There are people who claim that there are others and all this ridiculousness, but there's only 3. And there was a 4. Yes, there was a 4th. And that 4th was in the rifle that Oswald used to shoot the president. It had not been fired. So once again, I would like to go on for a part with a part 4. I want to really discuss other elements with regards to the assassination, which is, particularly with regards to Oswald's interview with Dallas police, the killing of Officer Tibbet, and other stuff like that, because that would be something to look into the future. And to someone answered the question, do you think it'd be possible to still get DNA from those bullets with today's technology? I don't think so, because I doubt that there's any DNA to really examine for, because again, DNA technology is, I don't think that even really existed until the 90s, if you will, with the OJ Simpson killing and stuff like that, where people start to use blood and DNA and actually, point to stuff like that. I think that I don't my answer to that question would be I don't think so. But we certainly had in those days wound ballistics and the understanding of what a bullet could do to a human body, brain matter, bone, etc., and all that stuff. But I do appreciate my opponent for having this one and this discussion debate. And next, if we do have a part 4, which I'd be fine with, next time I want to really get into the police interrogation of Lee Harvey Oswald and the killing of Officer Tippit.
Well, thank you very much, Net7. Elijah Rivera, closing statement.
Yeah, I think I pretty much showed all the evidence I needed, but I want to show way more ballistics, so we're not even done with that. And I think we shouldn't just turn that book over. But fortunately, Governor Connolly, he got buried with fragments. So some of the evidence is in a grave, eaten by some maggots and covered in dirt, which kind of sucks. But yeah, he decided to have himself buried and not turn over the pieces and fragments inside of his body to the FBI or National Archives, which kind of sucks. But what can you really do about that? All I really needed was those 2 bullets to blow the case, but I did want to go through the chain of custody of the magic bullet, because that's important. Want to go over the other bullets that are photographed, and we actually see a bullet that looks like C399 photographed in one of the photo galleries of the different photographers there at the assassination. We're going to go through a lot of this stuff, but we're going to go through also some of the stuff Net said in future debates, because we do want to go through the interrogation and the interviews. We want to go through Oswald's wallet. We'll go through his jacket that was like, there's a lot of stuff we want to go through to show that the government is probably lying about this. And it's really interesting. And I hope to have another debate soon with Net. And you guys will stay tuned for the next one, because I'm going to dress up as David Ferry next time.
All right. Thank you, Agent Rivera. And like both of our debaters have said, stay tuned for a part 4. All of our questions that we had, they covered in the debate or in their closing statements. So, again, I'd like to thank you both for a very entertaining and informative debate. There are debaters' links are in the description. Please show them some love. And other than that, good night.